The Bridges Burn podcast is brought to you by Youth Bar, Halifax's home for science-driven aesthetics and care you can trust.
Their expert team delivers natural results with personalized care in a friendly, welcoming environment.
As a Bridges Burn podcast listener, you're invited to use the exclusive code BRIDGESBURN for special pricing on your first Botox or filler treatment or one of their other many services.
You can follow at Youth Bar HFX on Instagram to check them out and book your visit today.
This is Bridges Burned with Megan and Amy. If you grew up on the East Coast, you can probably finish this sentence. If it happens in the sky, Cindy Day knows why. On our first ever interview episode of Bridges Burned, we're sitting down with someone who knows a thing or two about weathering storms and not just the ones on your radar.
Cindy Day has spent decades as one of Atlantic Canada's most trusted meteorologists. She built a reputation, an audience, and a brand that people rely on every single day and worked with the country's largest media companies.
Today, she has her own weather website called cindyday.com, has written a book called Grandma Says about weather sayings from her grandmother.
And AI told us this because AI. So when we put your name into AI, it says, Cindy's here to talk about what really goes on behind the newsroom doors, what happens when you're no longer on brand, and why sometimes burning a bridge is the only way to clear the air.
Oh, God bless.
Wow.
AI. That's something.
It sounds like a juicy show that you're going to be.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
How did you become a meteorologist?
Oh, that's a big one. I've always been fascinated by the weather. I grew up on a dairy farm. And so, of course, like is the case with fishing, farming, anybody that works outdoors, the weather is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
So I had parents and grandparents who were master meteorologists, but didn't get past grade 6 because of the industry they were in.
Wow.
But they learned to observe the sky.
Yeah.
And they could tell you if it was going to rain the next 36 hours by the wind direction, by the rings around the sun and the moon, and how bright the stars were, how the animals behaved. So I really started studying weather with my grandparents by my side and read the weather lore instead of the science of meteorology, which I came to understand later.
Was the farm here in Nova Scotia?
It was in Ontario.
Oh, amazing.
And it was a mixed farm where we had dairy cattle and crops of soybean and corn and a maple sugar bush. So it was really an amazing place to grow up.
So after growing up with that knowledge, did you decided to go to school or how did you study meteorology?
Yes, so I decided that I wanted to be a farmer and not go to school. Not a good move. My mother was a teacher by trade.
Right.
And so she said, just go study something and
Yeah.
then come back and be a farmer if you still want to be a farmer. So at that time, there was a new school being built in Cornwall, Ontario, not far from the farm, called Transport Canada Training Institute. And they were training air traffic controllers and meteorological technicians. And I thought, ooh, this is perfect. I'll study a little bit of weather, come back and be a perfect farmer because I'll know what the weather is going to be like and I can already milk the cows and fix the tractor. So this is going to be a match made in heaven. So I started studying meteorology and I got hooked. And then I just went from there to taking correspondence courses at Florida State University and McGill and put it all together with a degree in meteorology.
Who knew Cindy Day knew how to milk cows?
And fix tractors.
And fix tractors. I sure as hell didn't.
Just in case this weather thing doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Something to fall back
You've got
on.
some things to fall back on, yeah.
I feel like it's working for you.
It seems to be.
Had many accomplishments. What's one that really stands out to you?
Oh boy, that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, I loved the fact that I was able and was privileged to put all of Grandma's stories into a book. The Grandma Says book was really special to me. And it just came by very organically where I met one of the people from Nimbus who called me over and said, you know, you do this If It Happens in the Sky thing on TV every Friday. What if you put these stories together? And I had just come back from the family farm with boxes of calendars where I wrote all of Grandma's sayings on different dates and different months in the calendar.
Oh.
So I had them with me and the book wrote itself. I just went through the calendars and pieced it together. So that is one of the great accomplishments. But, you know, the little things that I did through my career, whether it be in radio, TV, print, or just now with my own weather business, meeting the people. And, you know, I'd get a call from someone who'd say, my mother is turning 90. She's in this senior center. Could you come and have cake with her?
Oh.
And I would initially think, oh, I'm so busy. How can I do this? But after I would do it, it just made me feel marvelous. So
Yeah.
those things mean a lot to me.
Well, growing up, I saw you on TV. I watched you on TV. And Amelia's husband the other night or yesterday, I was like, Everett, finish this sentence for me. If it happens to this guy, and he knew exactly. So
Is that right?
Yeah, you're somebody that we grew up with and that we, trusted with the weather. And we were like, well, what does Cindy Day say today?
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. Every once in a while, I meet somebody who says, I'm the Cindy Day at the office. People come to me and ask me what the weather is going to be like. So that's lots of fun.
I just thought of this. Is Day your real last name or is it your performance name?
It's my performance name.
Okay.
Yes. I started in radio many years ago, first with Environment Canada, and then I got hired away to radio. And my family name was a French name, Lefebvre. And they said, well, you can't use that in radio. I thought, well, it's my name. So they gave me this list of names to choose from. One was Weatherby, a little bit much. So I chose Day, and it served me well. It's
Yeah.
a short name. People remember it. And they played off the 5-day forecast, Cindy Day and the 5-day forecast, as they do in radio.
Yes. Oh,
So-
absolutely.
Funny because my real name is Amelia, and they changed my name too to Amy because it was
Oh,
easier.
Easier.
But gave me the list too.
Oh.
What would you like?
Isn't that something?
That's
Mhm.
hilarious.
Amelia.
That's right.
That is funny.
As great as it is, and all the amazing feedback you get from the community, whether going to have cake with somebody or
Mhm.
people reaching out saying they're the Cindy Day in the office, you are somebody who is extremely bullied on social media.
It's quite unbelievable. I do have more than my share, I'd like to say. I'm not sure if that's a fair statement to make, but it comes by, and I don't know why or where from, but seemingly out of nowhere.
Mm.
It's not always about the weather. It's often not about the weather, more times than not. It's about what I'm wearing, or it's about something that they believe I said previously about somebody else. And it's often from people who are not even in this country or in this
What?
province. I get people from out west. I get people from Carolina who, oh, I heard about you, and it's totally irrelevant to anything, but it just starts to spin a group of often trolls, if that's the right word,
Mhm.
and it just explodes. And so I've had more than my share of that.
Before social media existed, was that still happening? And if it was, where was that happening?
It not to this level or
Right.
this extent, certainly. There was always the occasional letter that came to your desk
Mhm.
before social media, or a phone call where somebody had something nasty to say. But you really had to be brave to do that. To sit
Mhm.
down, pen in hand, and then
Yeah.
to write a letter and sign it most times,
Yeah.
or to pick up the phone and call. But these people who are very brave on social media are most times quite anonymous.
How do you deal with it? Like the first time, was there one that really stuck out to you and like hurt you?
Wow. I can't recall the first one. They just seemed to trickle in. I think the ones that hurt me the most were ones that were personal attacks. I don't mind someone reaching out and saying, look, your forecast is always wrong, which I hope it's not. But, that's your opinion. You don't like my weather. You don't like how I present the weather. That's also, it's your
Mhm.
opinion, and you're allowed to have an opinion. But attacks on, how I look, or
Yeah.
why I'm doing it because I'm not a pretty blonde or a size 4, or they don't like my lipstick color. Those things I find are very hurtful because I spend so much time studying the science of meteorology and trying to get the forecast just right. And after a day where I've been working for hours trying to pinpoint a storm and get the warnings out to keep people safe, I get a "don't ever wear red on camera again" comment. And those are the
Yeah.
hurtful comments.
You literally put in so much work. You grew up knowing a lot about weather, went to school, and that is what people are focusing on.
Right.
Now, here's a question.
Mhm.
Do men meteorologists get the same kind of flack as women?
Absolutely not.
No. You look at like a Lloyd Robertson, who was
Mhm.
like 102 when he was on news
Right.
forever. And
Absolutely.
could you imagine if that was a woman? Like, it seems to be that older white men can, just take over the airwaves for as long as possible and wear whatever. But when a woman does it and is intelligent and bringing something else, that's what people focus on.
Well, that's a very good observation. And let's look at the Lloyd and Lisa scenario. That's a good example of how she wasn't there till she was in her 80s or whatever age Lloyd was. It's not fair. I don't know how else to say it. It's just misogynistic, the comments that I get, what they say about what they're seeing instead of the product that you're bringing, and that's what's hurtful.
Yeah. And you've been doing this for decades. Do you find it's getting better or worse with social media?
It's getting worse. And I don't want to blame Facebook, but the controls have to be tightened a little bit.
Mhm.
Just recently, I had a viral explosion on Facebook. Somebody made a comment about something I said years ago. And then people from, as I mentioned, different provinces, different countries. Is she the one that, and I can't even repeat some of the language that was used. And there were 800 comments in hours. And then there were groups that formed, and these groups were anonymous groups, and anonymous people that had their profile was anonymous 1 2 3 4 5 and anonymous, and I didn't think that was acceptable or that Facebook would allow
I
for
didn't
that.
either on Facebook.
So, and in that same week, there was a threat. I got a very threatening email sent to me, very personal. So I had to bring in police,
Wow.
and they said that they get comments and calls about these anonymous groups on a daily basis. And they just, once they're shut down, they reinvent themselves. They just come back with another anonymous headline and they just start all over again.
Are they able to trace that sort of thing, or does that take too much?
It's very difficult. They don't have the resources to trace it, all the complaints that they get in all the situations. But it's really quite amazing. The threat that I got was terrible because it was so personal. It was an email. And when they come on Facebook, they're still frightening and personal, but you just feel they're just feeding off each other and they say things to try to get a rise out of me and out of others. But when it's an email directed to you and describing your home and where you park your car.
Oh, God, no.
And that if, this warning came 2 weeks ago and it said, you better be careful what you say because it would be awful if something terrible happened to you.
You're talking about the weather. Why are they?
Weather, exactly.
You better be careful what you say. What are you going to say?
Exactly. And that's funny because people often, there's a lot of bad in social media. There's some good as well. And then a lot of my followers support me and back me and try to confront these others. And it's not really worth their effort sometimes, but they say that. They say she's forecasting the weather. Like, why has this become such an issue and so negative and vile? Some of the language that's being used is just horrible.
I remember one time some people were writing about me online, and one person said her picture is on her father's desk. Her dad works right beside me.
Oh.
And I was like, that is too personal.
That's
Number
crossing the
one,
line.
bringing my family into it. But then also, like, you know more about me than I realized.
Right.
That gets scary.
It's a personal invasion.
It is.
Right. It's one thing if it stays on social media and they don't know where you are, but when they start knowing family members or personal information, that just is
because they didn't sign up for that.
No.
None of our family members or partners signed up for any of this.
Exactly. And we didn't either.
No.
And I think we have to remember that because in the last explosion of hate, I guess you could call it, on social media, I was surprised by the number of people who said, well, you're in the public eye, you should expect it.
Yeah.
And should we ever expect to be treated that way and for that kind of language to be used? Never.
I always laughed when, somebody would send an email about something they didn't like that I had said on air. And they'd be like, I hope you lose your job. And I just think, like, only in our industry, like, could you imagine calling, like, Staples?
Right.
Listen, Joe.
Right. Not the printer I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I hope you die and burn and lose your job.
Yeah.
And just like, there's some truly hateful people out there.
There are hateful people.
Has it ever made you want to take a step back from media?
It has. A couple of times I've taken little steps back. The most recent, I just turned off the comments on Facebook. And just for a little while, because I love engaging with people. And I love when they can ask me questions and I can help them decide what they're going to do, whether it's a wedding or a picnic or a round of golf. So that was something I felt like I had to do, and I did it for a short time. And that seems to calm things down for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
When I left Saltwire and started my own business, it did eliminate some of the TV comments, TV type comments, if you will, where people would say, for example, getting groceries. One lady who worked at the store said, are you sure you want to buy that much cheese? Because you should keep your figure if you want to keep your job on
Only in
TV.
Nova Scotia. Only in Nova Scotia would somebody say that. I really think so.
You think so? I don't know.
In Vancouver, I don't think anyone would say that.
No.
Ever. Mm-mm.
I used to work in Ottawa, And people didn't care that I was on TV in
No,
Ottawa.
they
You
don't.
just went on with your life. But in Nova Scotia, and there's some good and bad there too. They feel like they know you, and that's
Yes.
part of the maritime love and connection.
Mhm.
But by the same token, they feel that they could say things that they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit of that goes on. Like
Yeah.
you're glad that they care, but careful where you don't cross that line, right?
What do you do with the Facebook comments? Do you when you have your comments on, are you reading them all? Are you trying to avoid it? Like, how do you? Because you've obviously read some of them. Like, how do you
Right.
get through that?
I try to read them all because oftentimes there are questions
Right.
or, and people have concerns about something. So I try to engage with as many as I can. I've come to learn what types of photos or videos that I put up that will bring on negative comments. The other day I posted a beautiful photo. There were boats in the water and ducks, and it was a sunset, but there were condensation trails in the sky. And there's a whole group of climate deniers who believe that government is spraying us, and these condensation trails that are naturally forming in the wake of an airplane are spray
Right.
trails that are dumbing us down and controlling the population. So without even, considering that, I posted this beautiful photo, and then all of a sudden they come, a lot of them from the United States, and they say, are you going to stop denying the fact the government is controlling and seeding the clouds and changing our weather patterns? And it just goes, it becomes out of control over something like
Yeah.
that. So those I try not to read. If I notice something in the picture that may trigger, I just stay away from those because I know there's going to be a whole group of,
How
set
do
of
you
people.
know though? Some things that you don't even realize can set people off. I've learned.
Right.
I posted a video that I didn't think anyone would care about,
Mhm.
and it's like 300,000 views. I'm like, why?
Isn't it something? And then
Yeah.
something you post that you think is so important that they read and understand, and you get 3 comments. But it's hard to gauge sometimes.
It is.
It
Is
is
that a lot of new comments you're getting, like climate deniers?
a lot.
So can you tell us a little bit about that, especially as a meteorologist?
It's quite amazing, especially when seasons end, and I do a little climate report on, the past 3 months, and if the temperature was above normal or below normal. If I post anything like that, I just have to stand back and watch it go viral. People saying, don't you know that there was an ice age, and don't you know our climate is always changing? And people have trouble between weather changing and climate changing.
Right.
They don't really get the difference there. But there's always, people that spring forward and say that I'm working for the government. Many people say she's cashing her checks again. There she is working for the Liberal government. It's quite something. And those are the ones you have to avoid, because if you start to engage, and I would honestly just want to explain to
Yeah.
them, here's why. Even if you don't believe the science, even if science is not your big thing, let's look at anecdotally at the icebergs, at the shift in the farmer's season, the maple syrup industry, the sea surface temperatures, and how the lobster is migrating. Just look at that, and then it just brings on. I try, but it's not really helpful sometimes. You just have to walk away from those.
Who knew that weather would get people so fired up?
So fired up. I know. Everybody feels, someone once said that there are 2 professions that are very difficult in Canada, and that's being a meteorologist and a hockey coach, because everybody can do your job better than you can.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Forecast the weather and coach hockey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amy and I were talking about this earlier, and just about pay for women in this industry, because we've both sort of seen men doing the same jobs we are
Mhm.
and getting paid significantly more.
Right.
Have you noticed the same thing?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
With meteorologists specifically, like will a male meteorologist get paid more than a woman, or does it depend on the job?
I think if they're doing the same job. The male is often the chief meteorologist in a team. If there's a larger, like it's more common mostly in larger centers or in the U.S. If there's a group of meteorologists, rarely is the female meteorologist the lead. It's usually the man, and most times the salary is higher. Like I've switched jobs within this market and other markets as well, and I've come in with more experience than the man that I was replacing, but I started at a lower salary.
Did you ever
Wow.
speak up for yourself or ask?
Yeah, just that, well, this person has a brand now in this market and blah blah blah, but it's was not always the reality of it. And this is interesting because I was thinking about on my drive over here just about how the differences are. And
Yeah.
I've hosted a lot of events over the years when I was in radio in Ottawa and filling in TV in Ottawa, and then my jobs here in the Maritimes. And many times, not just once, would I co-host with a male, and the male would be paid to host the event, and I'd get a basket of wine and dog treats and a basket of wine, and that's not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're co-hosts and you're working side by side, but the male is seen to take the lead, which even if is not the case.
In those situations, did you think about saying something but literally think, I cannot burn a bridge?
That's usually what happens. You want to say something, and most times the people are so familiar to you. The industry really is a small industry, radio, TV industry, so you just don't say anything. But many times I wish I had spoken out.
We were both saying earlier that it's crazy how we feel like we're burning bridges when we're literally just asking for what we deserve.
That's right. Isn't it true?
Right.
Absolutely.
Do speak up, especially as a woman. You're entitled, or you're not as experienced, or you're not a good enough anchor. Like all of these things,
Right.
Especially if you're a co-host on a morning show.
Mm-hmm.
That those two words, CO, mean half the pay.
Right.
It really does.
It does.
You're doing the exact same work. You're going to all the same events and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is a shame. And I would like to think that it's changing. I don't think it's changing very much.
No.
It's not.
Is that why you started your own site? So you could kind of be your own boss and make your own money, or?
I think so. I just wanted to make my own decisions.
Yeah.
And the last couple of jobs I had, the powers that be decided there was a certain way that I should present the weather. They decided that 7-day forecasts were not important. Just do a quick 1 day, 2 days. And I kept saying, well, then you don't need a meteorologist to just give you 2 days. If you want someone to explain 7 days or really give you the meat and potatoes of what's going to happen for people who really need to know, then that's what I'm here for. But that consumption of the weather and the news and everything has changed so much that I just thought, well, it's time to step back and do what I love to do and present it the way I want to present it to the people who need the information.
Are you happy?
I am. I'm so happy. I love waking up in the morning and getting my weather organized and thinking about the people who need it at different times of the year, whether it's somebody who's harvesting the strawberries or, watching for frost in the fall just before the grapes come off. I just thinking about the people who are going out to fish and the wind direction and wind speed. That's all really important when I put together a forecast, and it makes me very happy.
With the rise of AI, for meteorologists especially, is that a threat to the industry?
I'd say it is overall. So it depends on how you consume the weather and what you want to get from the weather. So if you just want to know, hey, do I need a jacket? Is it going to rain this afternoon or not?
Right.
AI will take over that. There's no doubt. But if you are traveling from West Chesapeake and you're going to Canso, Nova Scotia, and there's fog and it's the transition season, where will you hit the fog? Where will there be icy conditions? All those small weather pockets are really not going to be highlighted in an AI forecast. This AI is going to be more general forecast, going to be very not specific for regions, but just a general forecast. So I think depending on how you consume the product, AI will take over part of the industry, but not for those who really need information.
We need a Cindy Day.
Well, thank you very much.
We have to have
I'm glad to hear that.
So you've done weather for a very long time, but you also wrote a book, and it is sort of about weather. But tell us a little bit more about the book.
So as I mentioned, it was all grandma's sayings. And when I meet somebody after they read the book, they all say, your grandma didn't say all that. And she certainly did. And it was just magical. So I lost my grandfather when we were very young. So grandma lived with us. And so it was like having another mom. And I grew up on a dairy farm. And so mom would go to the barn to help dad. And the kids, my sister and brother and I, would sit around the kitchen table doing our homework until they came in from supper. So grandma would sit with us. And she always had these cool things to say. Like one day we were sitting, I'll never forget it. I was about 7. We're sitting around the table and she jumped up and went to the kitchen. She said, oh no, I burnt the potatoes. It's going to rain.
What?
Oh no, what? How is that possible? There's a connection between burning potatoes and rain. So the next I asked my mom, I said, Mom, what do you think? We called her ma mère because I was in French. What do you think ma mère meant when she said it's going to rain because you burnt the potatoes? She said, I don't know, Cindy, but write it down and someday you'll ask somebody. So that's where I started writing down all these weather expressions. She'd go to the hen house to get the eggs in the morning and she'd come back and she'd say, my feet are wet and there's not a cloud in the sky. It's going to be beautiful.
What? Oh my God.
How is this? Is another one. I wrote it down. So when I started to study meteorology, the instructors thought I would lost my mind. So the questions I would ask about the cows lying down in the field, the ring around the moon, the burnt potatoes. The burnt potatoes one was really cool because the instructor looked at me and said, wow, might have to do with the pressure of the air before a rainstorm. So he went away with it and came back weeks later with this whole explanation on it. And there's science behind it. So that,
Wow.
yeah. And a lot of these weather observations, well, if you asked grandma or your ancestors, they could not tell you why, but they could tell you that's how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought if I study the science behind all these expressions, I'll be a better farmer. That's what I thought I wanted to be. But then when I took the career as a meteorologist, I thought people need to know the science behind these things because it's pretty cool. So that's what the book is. And there are some weather expressions that those based on dates are really hard to explain scientifically. But those based on observation, like the ring around the moon, the wet feet. So dew will form on the grass on a clear night when there's no wind. And a clear night with no wind, you're under the center of a high-pressure system that brings sunshine. The center of the high has to shift off to the east. That means you'll have at least one more day of sun. So wet grass in the morning. If it's clear overhead, you're in for a beautiful day and probably half of the next day. So
That is good to know.
Around the moon.
yeah, so the expression is ring around the sun or moon, rain or snow upon you soon. And so a weather system comes with a whole deck of clouds. There's high cirrus cloud, then the cloud gets thicker and lower and close to the ground until the cloud is heavy enough to rain on you. That first cloud that leaves the low pressure system is a cirrus cloud, and it's made up of ice crystals instead of water droplets. And the sun will reflect and refract off these ice crystals that are shaped like the lead in a pencil and create a halo around the sun or moon. That's usually about 2 days ahead of the rain.
Who knew?
There you go.
Grandma knew. Grandma knew.
That's right.
How many sayings did you have
Oh boy.
after all those years?
I think about 90 in the book, but there's a lot more than that. And so people say, write another book. And I might do that. I'm thinking I might reach out to different ethnic communities because Grandma was French Canadian. And so there are probably a lot of different cultural differences and observations that would be kind of fun to put in a book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's like we live in Nova Scotia where hurricanes happen.
Right.
Is that something kind of fun to track for you? Is it scary? Like, what is your favorite kind of weather to track?
Oh boy. I think snowstorms because I'm a big fan of winter and
Mm.
I love snow. Yes, I know not people don't share my passion for winter, but I love tracking snowstorms. But hurricanes are fascinating because of the nature of the system and because you can track them for days and days and days. You know, most weather events develop and then they blow through, but these hurricanes, they can be on our radar, so to speak, for over a week. And you watch how the eye forms and then the depth of the eye and the tornadoes within the eye wall. And so there's so much going on in that one system. It's like many microsystems in a large macro system. So it's fun.
What about when Hurricane Juan came? What was that like before, I guess, and after too?
That was amazing.
Yeah.
It had been tracked for several days.
Yeah.
It started to veer in closer to the coast than I think most expected. We knew we'd get a brush from it with, heavy rain and some wind gusts, tropical wind gusts, but it did start to pivot in a little faster and closer than we expected. So it was a Sunday night, late at night. Word on the street was going on in downtown Halifax that day. And I was reading to children. And I remember people coming up and saying, don't you know there's a hurricane coming? I said, yes, but it's fine. It's not going to be here right now. But you could feel the wind and you felt tropical. It was the moisture was picking up. So I went straight to work from that point.
Wow.
And that's where I stayed for 2 days until everything blew through.
Oh, you guys had power there at least?
Yes, we had a generator.
We didn't.
No, that's
For a week.
For a week, is that right?
For a week at my house.
Wow.
And no school.
And no school, that's true. And then White Juan,
And then
not
White Juan,
long
yeah.
after. And I think that
This
was
was
more of a
before your
hardship.
time.
That's
This is
right.
before she came here.
Is that right?
I survived Dorian though. We didn't
Oh.
have power for a week. And
So-
I'm originally from Montreal. Like
right.
where I live is country to me.
Mhm.
And once I learned Everett started filling the bathtub up with water, he's like, well, when our power goes out, we're not going to have water. And then by day 3, when he was like, go to the lake to get more water to flush the toilet, I was like, I'm out. I'm going to my friend's house.
That's it.
Call me when power comes.
This is a hardship.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think Hurricane Juan made a lot of us scared because I had never experienced a hurricane quite like that in my life.
Right. It had been many years. So if you were a young person, you had never experienced anything like that.
No.
Some of the older people had stories to tell about the 50s and 60s, but there had been a lull with anything that intense.
Yeah.
And it was scary. The sounds that the hurricane makes, the freight train kind of sound when the tornadoes developed in Point Pleasant Park in the outer bands.
Crazy.
Within the hurricane. It was quite a system.
Is that normal?
Oftentimes.
Really?
Yeah. Convection in the eye wall of the system.
I remember I was at a movie with my boyfriend at the time, and it was a very late movie because it was a Sunday night, I remember.
Yes.
And I turned on my cell phone when I got into the car, and my mom was like, "Where are you? Get home." And I was like, "What? Who cares? It's not that big of a deal." But it was crazy when we were driving home, and I was like, "Yeah, something's different here."
Yeah.
And then woke up to trees down everywhere.
Right. And the sun was shining.
And the sun was shining.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it was
blew through pretty quickly, but the
Yeah.
damage was quite something.
It was it was crazy. It
Yeah.
was crazy. What a time.
I learned about it at the Maritime Museum.
Well, there you go.
Honestly, it was like a
Great place to
huge
learn.
thing for the Maritimes. I still
was,
remember
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, of course, White One after that with 100 centimeters of snow and blizzard conditions, and people were I didn't have power for almost 2 weeks.
At White One, you didn't?
Right.
Really?
In
my
downtown
God.
Dartmouth. We were just one little grid that had been forgotten. And my neighbor, who had a cast on her arm and wasn't going to work, she could see the power trucks going by, and she thought, I don't know why we don't have any electricity yet. So she called and she said, "We're still in the dark." They said, "No, you're not." She goes, "Oh, no, we are." So they came back and they got us hooked up. But yeah, it was quite something.
Living in Ottawa, were you there for the ice storm?
Yes, I was.
That was my big storm of night.
That was your one.
That was the ice storm of the century, they called it.
Unbelievable. And you can blame or thank the ice storm for bringing me to the Maritimes.
Really?
I had a small business in Ottawa, and it was a couple of different tentacles to my business. So one of them was a phone-in service, so farmers could phone in a 900 line. There was a $1.99 fee and get their corn heat units and growing days and marine forecasts on the Great Lakes and just everywhere, Ontario and parts of Quebec. And when the ice storm hit, I was using a system out of Montreal called Infotel, and it wiped it out completely. And there was no insurance because it was an act of God. So I was at this turning point where I thought, what do I do? Do I start from scratch again? It was going so well. And about a week after that, I got a call from Carol McDade, who was the news director at Global TV. And she said, "We'd like to hire a meteorologist. Are you interested?" And I thought,
Sure am.
I know a month ago I would have said no, but here I am wondering what to do. So that got me to the Maritimes.
We never leave.
Never leave. I thought I had about a 5-year plan.
The ocean and the clean water. Like, even when my friends still come down, they're like, on the lake, "Can we swim in that?" And Everett's like, from PEI,
Right.
"What do you mean? Do you not know how to swim?" I'm like, "No, they're asking if it's clean."
If it's
like,
clean.
why wouldn't it be clean? I'm like, it's a whole thing. Like, just
It's true.
to be surrounded by such fresh water and ocean and the people.
It's amazing. It is, yeah. Like I say, I had a 5-year plan, and it's been 27 years now,
Wow.
and love it. And my neighbor in Ottawa, when I was making the move, she was working at the museum in Ottawa, and she said, "I hope to go back someday." And I said, I'll probably see you when I come back here. She goes, "No, you're never coming back." She said, "You're going to smell the salt in the air and feel the ocean breeze, and you're never coming back." And sure enough, she was right.
Yeah.
You're a Maritimer for life now.
I'm a Maritimer for life now. I believe I am. I love it.
Maritimers adore you, and don't listen to the hate, because you are truly beautiful. You are talented.
Oh,
and
thank you
are
so much, Amy.
worthy. And just to
Yeah.
have you talk about your experiences with us means the world.
Well, thank you very much for asking and allowing me to share some of those experiences.
Well, before we wrap things up, what would you like to see change in the industry, if anything?
Wow. So what part of the industry? In the whole radio TV industry,
I
in the
think-
media world?
Yeah, media world, especially as a woman being in it.
I would like to see the viewer be more accepting. They say gone are the days where the news anchor is a size 2 and has the perfect clothes, but I'm not so sure they're gone. I think I'd like to see more acceptance. What really breaks my heart when I see comments on my Facebook page from people who say, "Suck it up. That's, it's just how it's going to be because, you're in the public eye." Many comments come from women.
Mm.
And I just feel that we don't have each other's back. Like
Mhm.
women need to support women in this industry and speak out. And that's one thing I didn't do soon enough. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry that I didn't, but I hope that with time that people become more accepting. And if there is an issue, that women do speak out.
Absolutely. Yeah, women need to support others. And I think that's why a lot of men who are on television or radio don't get as much hate, because women, it doesn't bother women as much, or not as many men are trolling. It is a lot of women.
It is a lot of women. It's surprising, and it breaks my heart to see it.
I have the opposite. It's men trolling me.
Is that right, eh?
Mhm. Terrible, terrible comments. The worst I've ever seen, and it's very rarely a woman.
Is that
Ever.
right?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, that's the. I guess they come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
You
just
don't
have to
really
stop it,
know.
people. Just
Yeah.
stop it.
And you know what? It's usually the people who have never ever been on radio, TV. They do not know what it's actually like when
Absolutely.
you're doing the job.
Mhm.
They never will.
No.
It's just there are some people that just will troll for life. They'll never be the ones
right.
that are doing the job.
That's right. No,
And-
they will never really understand or
No.
care to take time to understand. And maybe that's, on my wish list, that people would take time to, walk a mile in our shoes or somebody
Mhm.
else's shoes before you make a comment or a hurtful statement.
Mm-hmm.
There's this funny thing where if you don't like something or agree, you can just scroll past it. Did you know?
That is
Walk
a crazy
away.
thing. I don't
I
know what
know.
that is.
I know. It was really funny because not long ago, somebody came to my Facebook page and said, I really hate your weather. And I said,
Okay.
well, move on, my friend. I said, you walk into Tim Hortons and say, I hate your coffee?
And then leave.
No, you just don't go and buy their coffee if you don't happen to like it. So, exactly.
People going out of their way. You know what we call that? They're your fan. They're still a fan.
Still a fan.
Yeah. They're still a fan.
Let's just be kind to each other.
Exactly. Yeah,
Everybody, we need more kindness in the
Mhm.
world.
we do.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. You are our first guest.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very, very honored. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.